Everybody quiet and action. So it seems like during the period between 1969 and 1975, you describe it as a very exciting and interesting time. At that time, I know you were young, but did you have a sense of how this community connected with the larger Black American community in Miami, or with the city as a whole, with the life of Miami as a whole? Did you have that kind of awareness at the time?
So that's where you're taking me down the road where my father was very instrumental in the community as a minister. He used to teach at the prison system. He also taught at several armories. We used to have an armory right down the street from here. Also, the famous FIU, he also taught there as well too, and Florida Memorial College, Miami-Dade Community College, University of Miami, just to name a few. But he went around and he taught Islam, or he explained Islam in the community at that particular time. Did I have the opportunity to go with them? No, didn't have the opportunity to go with them. So I was in school, so yeah.
But did you get the feeling that Masjid al-Ansar, or what it was called, Mosque number 9 and 29, was it sort of well integrated into Liberty City in this part of Miami, or was it kind of a special world apart? Was it something a little bit separate from the rest of community life in Miami?
No, as far as community based, it was connected. I mean, it was connected all the way around. My father was very well known in the community, very well connected, not only with commissioners, also with mayors as well too. It was all a sense of togetherness. We all worked together. Anytime there was an issue that popped up, my father would rise to the occasion. If it wasn't my father, he had other people that come out and assist him as well too. But more than likely, it was my father who would deliver the message in the community. I'm gonna mention one name right off the bat. I didn't know that she knew my father, Janet Reno. And the reason why I'm bringing that name up is because I remember one day I got in trouble. She said, "I know your father." Okay, you see what I'm saying? So that's how close knit Islam was back in the day.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
So the community during these years grew stronger and seems to have been well integrated with the city as a whole. In 1975, I know that this community underwent some changes. There was the passing of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Can you describe these changes from your own perspective?
So we had the passing of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and we went to Savior's Day of February 26th of that same year. Then we had Imam Warahdin Muhammad. He became the chief minister for the Nation of Islam, still called Nation of Islam at the time. And then as time progressed, it became, I believe it was World Muslim Mission at the time. He made several transitions with name along the way. To me, personally, sorry about that, what was happening was that when Elijah Muhammad passed away and then we had Warahdin came into play, I saw like a separation amongst Muslims. You had some Muslims that went to the left and some Muslims that went to the right. But the majority of the Muslims stayed to the right. That's the ones who stayed with Warahdin Muhammad. And then there were others that broke off and they started joining the Nation of Islam. That's the only thing that bothered me, because we all came from the same place. When the change took place, we all should have changed at the same time. But change is very hard for some people. Yeah. If you're not used to it, if you don't have that ability to change, then guess what? we wound up going to the left.
So, Masjid al-Ansar seems to have navigated those changes and built itself into a community that survived for the following decades up until today. Do you have any insight as to, how and why this community was able to adapt successfully rather than struggle during these changes? How did it end up working out?
To me, I think it was a lot of prayer. A lot of prayer. And good leadership coming in as well too, to keep the word going. A lot of leadership. We had Nasser Ahmed, all right? He's the present imam now. I remember when he came and him and my father would talk, and they would have large conversation. There are a few things that I would like to say, but I'm not going to mention it, but they did have conversation. But it led Imam Nasser to leave Masjid al-Ansar to go back to school. And once he completed his schooling, then he came back to Masjid al-Ansar. And guess what? Ever since then, the Islamic community has been flourishing ever since then. We had other Muslim leaders as well too. I'm not familiar with those Muslim brothers or those imams that came before or during Nasser Ahmed tenureship, but the community wound up thriving and kept going. We have sisters like Sister Afra. She came from the transition. She moved over and she made that transition, and she thrived and she did very, very well. She ran this school as well too. Did very, very well. I'm only using her as an example. Okay,
so to turn this back to in a personal direction, how over all of these years, how do you think the masjid in particular and Islam in general affected and made you into the person that you were becoming? How did it become part of your identity? If there's anything you can share about that.
Remember, Islam has always been part of my identity, always. Whether it was Nation of Islam or the actual transition that took place, I just managed to just move right along. It wasn't a parent thing or whatever. It's just something that just made sense. And it was very comfortable for me to make that smooth transition as well too. Plus that my father had very instrumental. He had something to do with it as well too. I could have easily gone astray, very easily gone astray. But just by holding on to my faith, saying my prayers, staying amongst my brothers and sisters, watching the people that I hang around with, I did very, very well for myself.
So you're from a large family. Would you say this is something a path that you and all of your siblings shared together, or was it more your own particular path? In other words, I'm trying to ask, how did your family as a whole go through this, go through all of these years? Was there division? Was there harmony? Was it? Did the community? Sorry, this is maybe not the right question. I'm just trying to ask about family.
There were waves along the way. There were waves along the way, but it wasn't a large.
Yeah.
It's not like the whole family went astray. We all are doing well. Ever since from Nation of Islam, the transition that took place, we all did very, very well. We had a little hiccups along the way, but we still managed to thrive and learn and excel in the community, just like my father did.
Yeah.
Thrive, excel, learn, and we all did very, very well for ourselves.
So after the transition years in the 1970s, how did the community gradually change through the 80s and 90s? Do you have feelings about that or insights into that?
I want to say this, after I graduated from Claire Muhammad schools and, went into the public school system, and I moved on and went into a different direction. I wasn't here during those periods of time. There's a small segment. I came in afterwards, and then afterwards, from what I'm hearing during that particular time, the community managed to thrive very, very well. Remember, we had Nasser Ahmed, we had other imams that were in the community as well, out there teaching just like my father, because my father taught some of the imams that were here as well too. So they managed to keep things going.
Yeah. During these years and continuing through today, the Muslim community as a whole in Miami began to change. Immigrants from Islamic countries began to form a lot of the Islamic community in greater South Florida. And I would like to ask how the community at Masjid al-Ansar connected with them, or how they connected with Ansar.
When the transition took place and my father became the imam, and he was teaching al-Islam at the time, he wound up connecting with the immigrant Muslims by inviting them into Masjid al-Ansar. And if it wasn't an invite into Masjid al-Ansar, it was always an invite to their community as well too. But the immigrant Muslims and also the Muslims, I'd say we're all Muslims, but the African American Muslims, we all wind up having a marriage together. And we all understood each other.
So, you have been a Muslim since you were born.
Since I was born.
Since you were born. So you have seen a long span of time of the American Muslim community across many decades. And I mean, as you certainly know, and every time you watch the news, you're probably reminded of this, that there is a tendency in American society for Islamophobia and misunderstanding Muslims. And I was wondering if you could comment on how American attitudes, just the public at large, have changed with regard to Muslims. Have they gotten better? Have they gotten worse? What is it like to be Muslim in America in this environment and in the past?
From my learnings, from what as growing up, what I've learned, I remember back in the day when we used to greet our brothers and sisters, we used to say Assalamu alaikum to each other, and it was no problem. I did not always hear that coming from Islamic immigrant Muslims who were here in this country as well too. I didn't hear that. It was like we put Assalamu alaikum on the map. You see what I'm saying? We weren't afraid. We had that courage about ourselves. We had that strength about ourselves. It was okay to say Assalamu alaikum. I also experienced in my own personal life, on my job, in my job life, and I see Muslims that are on the job. I said, Assalamu alaikum, my brother, how are you? And what happened is that, who are you? You see what I'm saying? Because they don't know who I am. They don't know where I'm coming from. But once they get to know me and feel me out and know what I'm all about, guess what? It opened up doors, better communication.
Do you think that in the 20 years since September 11th has made a lot of American... Huh?
Just your tie. Okay. Yeah. Just, there you go, perfect. There you go. Go ahead, continue.
Do you think that in the 20 years since September 11th, which are years in which a lot of Americans have become sort of scared or worried about Muslims in general, do you think, have you experienced any changes in public attitudes towards Muslims? Do you hide it more? Do you show it more? What is your change in the last 20 years?
Well, I'm glad the Muslim community rose up, because I know when the planes went into the World Trade Center, they said Muslim, Muslim, okay? And no, see, you do have some bad Muslims, and then you have Muslims that follow the Quran the way it's supposed to be, and the way it's supposed to be properly interpreted. From what I've seen from the 9/11 era to now, I don't see there's a separation. I see a rise within the Muslim community, you know, lashing out and saying that wasn't a good thing. And I'm glad that really happened. When I saw that was very, very important. You know, a lot of people go around and say that they are Muslim, but they don't have, it's like, you know. But you get the idea where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Do you have any idea, any insights into what is the future of Islam in America? Communities like this. Do you think that communities like Masjid al-Ansar will be able to adapt and adapt to the changes of the 21st century and all of the social changes that are happening? Do you think that that Islam is going to appeal to younger generations in the same way it appealed to your generation and the generation of your parents?
Well, you got to look at something like when my father was teaching and the way it caught his attention, and then you had the civil rights movement, and then you moved on, and then you have 9/11 that comes along. You have a generation like myself and like my family who were raised Muslim and what have you. They set the example for other people, because what happens is that when you're sitting there and you're talking and conversing with other people, and they say, wow, where's this person from? And they're trying to figure you out. And then eventually they find out that you're Muslim. Well, you know, you're not the same Muslim like I met before. You're a whole different Muslim altogether. And guess what? Now they want to know. They want to learn. They want to know how did you exceed in your life? What did you read? I want to know what you read. I want to understand Islam even more, even better. You see?
Yeah. So to appeal to the future, you set a good example. You show by being a model, and that incites people's curiosity and
Yes.
interest. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, when I walk up with my sneakers and jeans, I have this feeling of importance that I am Muslim. I represent the Muslim community. When you say Elisha Naji, trust me, they put two and two together. You got to be Muslim.
Yeah.
And then guess what? They study your actions the same time as well too. Oh, no, you can't be Muslim. You're doing that. You're not Muslim. No, I follow the guidance. I follow the tradition of Islam to its fullest, the best of my ability. And guess what? And when they see that, they say, ah, wow, you know, I'm interested. Can you tell me more about Islam? Okay? Can I come to the masjid? You know, we don't have the tamarines here. We don't have the drums here. I'm sorry, but guess what? But if you're looking to learn about Islam and the way of Prophet Muhammad and the teachings, and then guess what? We're here for you. The door is open. How we pray 5 times a day. We're here for you.
So when it comes to the teachings of Islam itself and the teachings of the Quran, what would you say are the central and most important of those teachings that if you were to try to make Islam appealing to an outsider or a younger person, what would you say is the heart of Islam for you?
What's that? Somebody have your phone? Is somebody here?
It's cool. Elijah, you're tired again? Thank you.
I know, for some reason, it's
Oh,
like,
am I hearing? Are we hearing something?
You're hearing something, I heard It was a man that came, a man came to the door.
There's a guy
And he was starting to utter, I'm telling him, no.
Oh, okay.
Probably went upstairs.
It's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So be sure to, I know the conversation's been getting very good right now and everything like that, but just be mindful to restate the question in your answer, because we won't
Yeah, I
hear
mean,
his.
sometimes my questions are like,
Yeah.
I say too many words.
Yeah,
so
it's hard for him
yeah.
to, yeah.
So try to, yeah, I mean, I'll try to simplify that, yeah.
He's taking me down.
Yeah,
the road
memory lane, it's
of,
like-
I have to mediate now.
I mean, if you don't want to answer the question I just asked, that's fine, that's a, you know,
Yeah.
I haven't asked that of anybody else who interviewed so far, but.
Right,
We're
right.
at 20 minutes, let's cut it and then start back up again.
You know,